and welcome to Business World B-Side. I'm Patricia Mirasol. Today, we tackle the threat of AI-driven fraud, which is a growing concern for financial institutions in the Philippines. Joining me is Mr. Dominic Forest, Chief Technology Officer at iProov, a London-based technology company specializing in biometric identity verification. Hello, and thank you for your time, Mr. Forest. Let's start the conversation with how vulnerable are Filipinos to AI-driven fraud?
The central bank stated that nearly 70,000 consumer complaints were received in 2024, and 13 of those were around unauthorized transactions. And if you think it through, unauthorized transactions mean that the identification of the person carrying out the transaction has failed. If I'm authorizing a transaction and I've been identified, great, it's not an unauthorized transaction. So the numbers speak for themselves. Philippines actually has a higher suspected digital fraud rate compared to the global average. And actually, a recent report showed out of 19 countries that studied, the Philippines had the highest fraud levels or suspected fraud levels for digital fraud. And most of these fraud transactions are at the login stage. So that's the stage when people are logging in to make a payment. And secondly, at the account creation stage. So that's half, that really does come back to the identification of the consumer who's making a transaction. And a lot of this comes back to phishing attempts. Half the victims, in fact, over half the victims reported phishing had been attempted from them. And we do know that, central bank has recently required the banks to start to move away from using passwords and to start to try to remove that phishing opportunity for people to steal people's passwords.
Apart from phishing, which is definitely a problem in the Philippines, are there any other trends that iProov has observed in the country that you'd like to share?
I think there's really two areas we should cover here. The first of which is the movement towards crime as a service or cybercrime as a service. We've seen this in many other areas of security where ransomware, for example, has been sold as a service where criminals can buy these services. And the challenge for this is it really drives down the skill set required by the criminals. Instead of needing to be experts and cyber experts, they can actually buy the service off somebody and then make use of that service to attack people. And we're now starting to see this in identity and in AI. And people can buy services there where they are actually getting access to the ability to deepfake somebody. So to create an image of them, to take a single image of them and create a video of that person and use that as an authentication mechanism, or to actually deepfake their voice as well, so that not only do they have the image of a person, not only can they get a video of a person, but we're seeing the use of them to talk not just for financial institutions, but in companies, but also in personal transactions. So you get a call from somebody, maybe that's a WhatsApp, maybe it's FaceTime, whatever type of call it may be, and it's the right face on the far end, it's the right voice on the far end, it's somebody you think and as a result, money is transferred to help out that person, to help out that friend, to help out that family member. There are lots of verification methods out there which can be bypassed if you can get the correct information for the person, which can be stolen or phished, and then you can actually deepfake them. And so you could get on a video call as them, you can make a phone call as them, and actually you can therefore, go make that payment authorization, or you can go through that KYC process as part of opening an account. And that allows you to create really a synthetic identity where you take either a real or a fake identity and you've created an account with it.
I guess that's the downside of technologies like AI. It drives down the skill set needed by threat actors. Given this, what key indicators of AI fraud should banks and fintech companies monitor to stay ahead of cyber criminals?
First thing companies need to do is actually have a look and understand where their vulnerabilities may lie. So where do they interact with their customers? So obviously through the banking application, if somebody can authenticate to a banking or a finance application, they can do it. But it's broader than that. Consumers can phone into their banks. They may be able to do video calls into their banks. And understanding where those weaknesses are, where the attack vectors are for the criminals, is the first place to start. Next, we need to be able to understand what it is the criminals are doing and how to control those risks. And really understand that this is a arms race that's taking place at the moment. The speed and the development of the AI is so fast that the attack methods we see are changing month in, month out, and week in, week out. So, what is attacks we're seeing today, in a month's time, we'll be seeing different and more realistic attacks. And it's got to understand that, if, for example, a bank has got a ability for a consumer to video call in, that actually the days where they can identify the person by, for example, sitting in front of a camera, comparing them to their ID document, and do that by eye, are long gone. It's very straightforward these days for a criminal to make use of a tool, download a tool, and actually just use a single face of a person, swap it over their face, and then sit on a video call, such as a Teams call or a Zoom call, and actually appear completely realistically as if they are the other person. A few years ago, you could spot it by eye, but these days, the higher quality attacks are absolutely realistic.
Are there any deep fake red flags we should know of? Because that's pretty scary, what you just said.
The question not really is, do I need to be worried about it? The question is, how can I protect myself against it? We yesterday published a article which is showing about a new tool which we've discovered, which is used with Apple iPhones and iPads, which allows the attacker to completely bypass the camera on the iPhone, which means that they can actually sit generating deepfakes on their computer, and from the application's perspective, it is talking to the native camera on the device and it's getting native imagery of the device. So if you imagine the scenario where the bank is doing a KYC to open an account and capturing an image of a person or capturing a video of a person, or maybe they are doing a support call, so into the support center and talking to a representative there, and they've actually got a video call with a person through the trusted bank application, they still do not know what it is they're seeing. You absolutely need those very high level security on the device. You want to make sure that your user devices are patched. You want to make sure that the banking applications are secured as well as is possible given today's technology. But if you are trying to protect against deepfakes, you have to be able to do a lot of that processing off the device. The decision needs to be made on servers out of the attacker's control. And the way we at iProov do that is we upload a very short video from the device to the back end, where it is analyzed by many different machine learning networks, and the decision is made about whether the human is real or not. So that although we do we block anything which is which to stop a digital video being injected, so that we know we're talking to real camera. If there's a weakness in the operating system, in iOS, in Android, and so the attacker can bypass it, and there is nothing that the bank or we can do on the handset to detect its injected video, then you absolutely have to be able to make that decision from the video and from the imagery alone. Think through the threat vectors and understand how the attackers will attack you, because that's what they'll be doing. And recognize that you cannot rely just on the device security.
To clarify, do you mean that the decision on servers should be out of the attacker's control, and that you can do that by having these servers analyzed by machine learning in the back end, so that whatever needs to be blocked can be blocked? Is that
The
correct?
machine learning in the back end needs to be absolutely updated on a regular basis. This needs to be it's a very, very specialist niche service, and it is not something that is easy for a bank or to do in-house. It does in the same way as a bank wouldn't these days try to write its own endpoint security for their laptops and for their other computers. It needs to be purchased and supplied by a specialist company in this space. Me, that's authorizing the payment. They don't want to know that it's somebody who knows, as a worst case, my username and password, and they don't want to know that it's somebody who's compromised my device. So even if the credentials being used are coming from my device, and it is genuinely my device, that's not what you're trying to authenticate. What you're trying to authenticate is that the real Dominic Forest is authorizing this transaction. And that's exactly where biometric authentication comes into play for banks, because what it is doing is proving three things. It's proving that the face of me matches the reference photo the bank has of me, so it looks like a Dominic Forest, so it is Dominic Forest. It's proving, secondly, through using strong liveness, that it is a real human being, Dominic Forest, and not a photo of Dominic or a deep fake of Dominic and somebody else taking a photo of me and overlaying it on your face. And lastly, it's proving that I'm there right now in front of the camera at this second in time. You can phish almost anything. Passwords can certainly be phished. There are many attacks where people spam authentications until somebody just accepts it. What I can't do, even if I wanted to, is share my face. I can give people copies of it or photos of it, but those copies of it and photos of it and videos of it cannot be used against a strong biometric authentication system to authenticate against me.
At the moment, it sounds like biometric authentication is a good method of keeping bank accounts safe.
I think that's absolutely right, because if you look at the attacks against organizations, and the risk of what's effectively identity theft to authenticate transactions, to open accounts, or indeed to attack a bank's internal systems is not only real, but it is very, very common and can be very expensive. If I used just one example, outside of banking actually, but if I used the example of MGM in Las Vegas, who had a single employee account stolen from in 2023, I think it was, that was a privileged account, and that could happen to a bank in exactly the same way. And to recover from that cost them over 100 million US dollars, was the last number I saw published. And if it had been as simple as having a biometric authentication as part of that flow where they reset that person's credentials and gave it to them, then that would not have happened. And this is exactly the same in banking in the Philippines, whether it's for the consumer, so the interaction with the consumer, or whether it's for the staff who have privileged access. Adding a layer of biometric authentication really means you know who is actually interacting with the systems.
I like that MGM example because it shows that all you need is one weak link to break cybersecurity defenses.
The reason I'm particularly picking on facial authentication is, I think a lot of us, day in, day out, we use fingerprint to unlock our phones. That is very, very different than the type of biometric authentication I'm talking about. And I think this is very worth understanding. And this is one I learned many years ago, and a lesson I was actually taught by my daughter. My daughter had access to my phone, and unknown to me, she added a fingerprint to my phone so she could unlock my phone more quickly than having to type in the PIN code. What that meant is every time I logged into my banking application or authorized a transaction in my banking application, using my fingerprint, neither the bank did not know if that was me doing that, or if that was her doing that. And if you imagine it was an attacker who's managed to add their fingerprint to a phone, then actually they don't know if it's a genuine person or if it's someone else. The reason for this is that the phones basically allow you to add multiple fingerprints or allow you to add multiple faces and don't tell you which one is being used. It's very convenient because I, for example, have my thumb and my forefinger on my phone, so I can use it however I'm holding my phone. I can use one of the digits, but they could be my finger and an attacker's fingers. And the purpose of biometrics for banking is to make sure it is the right person. So you have to be able to tell the difference, which again goes to say this is something that has to be done on back-end servers. It is not. This is very different than using the biometrics which are built into all our phones these days.
Thank you for sharing that. I really hope the Philippines adopts facial authentication soon. Right now, I'm wondering which companies will be the first adopters. And well, talking about adoption, is it possible to balance innovation with fraud prevention?
As you say, it's always a balance, but many of the things we're talking about today, particularly the protection against deepfakes and the use of protection against deepfakes and using voice biometrics for banking are very well proven these days. So if you can look at some of the banking customers iProov has around the world, which we, ING Bank in the Netherlands, for example, which is a massive global bank, has been using our facial biometrics since 2018. So that's 7 years old and been using it at scale. UBS Bank, again, another massive global bank, again, has been using our biometrics for many years now. So this is not something that, in terms of technology that is cutting edge in terms of being new and therefore high risk. What it is cutting edge in terms of is in terms of the level of security. We see attacks all around the world, including many from the Philippines, again, and have the ability to learn from those attacks and therefore have the defenses to protect our customers against that. If there are attacks taking place in the other world, for example, in Latin America or in Europe or in North America, then the Philippines organizations also benefit from that. One of the things we found is the criminals are very, very good at sharing information with each other. There are many groups where criminals share the way how to attack KYC systems, how to attack authentication systems. We track over 100 of these groups just on this subject. And unfortunately, the banks, the good guys, don't have that same communications level in terms of sharing how to do the defenses against it. We sit and we see the attacks from all of our customers. So what we make the point of doing is we have the ability to share that knowledge, and not only about what the attackers are doing, but also to share the defenses to make sure that the Philippines customers of ours are defended not just against attacks from the Philippines, but if attacked from other parts of the world, those techniques are also understood and they are defended against.
The speed of AI development is creating an arms race against AI-driven fraud, according to Mr. Forest. Deepfakes have become impossible for experts to distinguish from reality, which makes it incumbent for financial institutions to upgrade their defenses to protect both themselves and their customers. The solution lies in defenses that employ, among others, back-end server analysis and strong biometric authentication. This has been another episode of B-Side. Subscribe now and enjoy industry insights on Philippine business and beyond.